When I say vocation, I'm not talking about a job. I'm talking about your identity. I'm talking about who you are as a child of God, what has made you up, how you have been equipped, sensitized, empowered, the kind of access you have to people, wherever and however. The question is, how have I been uniquely formed to bear the beams of God's love where I am? We all have vocations. Some of us have a portfolio. Some of us may have a calling card that actually is in sync with our vocation. But vocation is a much deeper reality than our job. By virtue of our baptism, we have a vocation. If you're waiting on a job, waiting to find a job, waiting to get out of a job, waiting to get back into a job, you're not on vocational hold. I think there's a reason why today isn't tomorrow. Don't live your life leveraged into the future which you hope will happen, maybe some days demand must happen, and in a certain shape and form. Don't miss the moment. The invitation for living life is in the present moment, where God is going to be most present to you and with you, within you and around you, is now. And if there is to be a tomorrow, you're going to need today to prepare you for tomorrow. Don't cut in line. So in the meantime, claim your vocation, that you're a God-bearer. You are teeming with God's light and life and love. Don't grasp it. Don't squander it. Let it go. Let it go and let it flow.
Some of the call in John's Gospel is for us to be people of love. We're called to be part of a community of love. So all of us have been called to this. This is what Jesus is inviting us to be part of a community of love, and to love one another, and to love those in need. And so what would that look like for you? Jesus says that he's come to lay down his life for his friends. And then he invites us to do the same thing. He says, I'm calling you also to lay down your life for others. And I think we do this in a multitude of different ways. And there's all kinds of ways that we do this day by day by day with the people that we live with, the people we work with, the people that we associate with. We're constantly called to offer ourselves to be channels of God's love to others. And how that will look for any one of us, some of us may have a particular role to fill, or some particular vocation in terms of a career or a job in which we feel like that's our primary way of living out this call. But all of us are called to be it. So maybe you are called to be the one who cares about elderly people in your parish, or the one who takes care to notice and remember the names of the children that live in your neighborhood. Or maybe you're called to be the one who brings a small gift, maybe baked goods or a card or something to someone in the hospital. Or maybe you're called to be one who listens deeply to others. There's so many ways that we can lay down our lives in love for one another. And so all people share that calling. All of us have been called to that. And we will find in that loving service such a great and high calling and purpose in life, far beyond any other goal that the world can offer to us. This is where we'll really find our joy and our satisfaction, because we've been made for this.
Those people who are struggling to find their vocation very often aren't really looking in the right place. Vocation comes from the root, which means to call or to be called, and a calling, as in the gospel, the example of Jesus calling the disciples, first of all, John's disciples, come and see, and later the other disciples, come follow me. It's to ask people who are looking for a vocation, well, what gives you the most satisfaction? What calls to you to really feel that you are doing something worthwhile, something that feeds you intellectually and emotionally. Maybe not all at the same time, but both of those factors are usually there. In truth, very often when a person is seeking their true vocation, they will find that it's not always an easy road. Sometimes there are obstacles to be overcome. And in seeking one's true vocation, one needs to penetrate why it is that those obstacles are there. Is it something saying, look someplace else? Or is it something saying, you've got to work your way through this?
I think it was Paul Tillich who said that God, who defined God as the object of our ultimate concern. The object of our ultimate concern is God. That's how he defined God. And I think we could turn that around the other way too. I think we might say that the human being is the object of God's ultimate concern. St. Irenaeus, I think in the 2nd century, said it very luminously. He said, the glory of God is the human being fully alive. And of course, in the Gospel of John, we read that the Word, who was God in the beginning, became human flesh. Not some other kind of flesh, but human flesh. And there's a recognition there of the very high status of the human being in the whole scheme of things. It invites us to certainly a deep regard and respect for our own being. And then, of course, a deep respect and regard for every other human being that we meet, and recognizing the capacity of each human being to incarnate the love, grace, and truth of Christ, to be the means by which God's love is made yet more perfect in the world.
My own experience of vocation has been the extraordinary experience of God actually coming and looking for me and calling me. And one way in which I was particularly aware of this was during the years which I spent at seminary. In our chapel we had a very beautiful icon of Christ holding the Book of Life. And on that Book of Life was inscribed just one text from Scripture, and it was from the Gospel of John. I remember it was chapter 15, verse 16, and the words were, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." And those words, I used to look at them every day at worship during all those years of training to be a priest, and those words have meant so much to me in the years following. In my experience as a parish priest, particularly when things were difficult or when I was beginning to feel, oh, I wish I perhaps did a different job or not chosen this way of life. I remembered those words, but you did not choose me, I chose you. And I realized that all through my life, God has been there calling me, enticing me, choosing me, drawing me to himself, and it's extraordinary and wonderful experience. And that is how I see vocation, as God, the one who so loves me that he longs to call me, ultimately to call me home.